Oh, that ain't good.
I'm in charge.
All right.
Wow.
Here we go.
It's right
With
on
a
the
little
wall.
we're going to come at you today and talk a little bit about The Last Dance since we kind of skipped last week. I want to start with you guys on episodes 5 and 6. Those were the episodes talked about the gambling stuff. Talked about, I think, what the 90. I don't even know the finals against the Blazers, that kind of thing. The first thing I want to ask you guys about it, or the first thing that pops in my mind that was incredible was his mom making him go talk to Nike.
Yep.
And you think about how history would have changed and how things would be different. Like Nike probably wouldn't even be Nike if his mom doesn't say, no, you got to go and listen to them and hear their spiel. I mean, and now it's like, they're synonymous with each other. It's, Jordans and Nikes. And I just thought that was crazy that, he was like, nah, I wasn't even going to take, I wasn't even going to go. And that's phenomenal. That's insane. That
Unbelievable. He was what, waiting on Adidas, and then they wouldn't give him his own shoe or something like that, or what?
I mean, it's just, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's just crazy to me. The first thing I guess I want to ask you guys about, is there anything that stuck out in your minds? I know from those two, from 5 and 6, that you kind of want to go into.
I'm going to talk about this, and it goes into 7 and 8, but because he started talking about it with Drexler about how, like, he says basically that he can fire himself up with anything. And, like, even them speaking of Clyde Drexler being on the same page as him made him go off. And, I mean, like, Clyde Drexler is, like, one of the nicest dudes that's ever played the game. You know what I mean? And then that carried over into 7 and 8. Again, just talking about how he could find. I think he even said that I don't even think they knew that they upset me. You know what I mean? Like, he's just going off on these people, and I don't know, his ability to do that. I think helps, fortify him as one of the greatest.
Well, Dean, my favorite part of, and it goes into 7 and 8, was who was the kid from the Bullets?
I know you're talking about. Yeah,
he totally made it up.
Right,
he made it up. I was like, how do you make that up?
And even if he
36 in the first half of the next game against him.
But even if he didn't, all he told him was "Good game, Mike."
Good game, Mike. Put his arm around him supposedly and said, "Good game, Mike." Nuts.
Mace, you got anything?
5 and 6, I was so much down here when it came to 7 and 8. That I will hold my comments until you get to 7 and 8.
I got one other thing to ask you guys, because I thought about you, Dan and Mason, as I watched 5 and 6, just because I thought when he's like, I don't have a gambling problem, I have a competition problem, because that is you guys to a T. Like you guys would bet. I could see you guys with the shaggy hair perm dude flipping quarters against the wall and making bets. No doubt.
No question. No.
And he's exactly right about that, because we could be betting 50 cents. It doesn't
Absolutely. Matter.
Yep. I just want to win. And if I can't beat him, guess what? I would go to my house and practice so that next time we played, I could beat him. And when you think about our level is here compared to, our income.
Tell me this, you two, seriously, do you think it's innate? Like, do you think that's
100%?
Or do you think because of like you grew up and you got beat down, or I don't know. What brings that level of competition? Because like you two will bet on anything. It doesn't matter. You guys will be like, hey, you want to put $50 on it? You guys just do it.
Well, I have that written down to talk about for 7 and 8. His attitude, you're born that way. And I believe that 100%. I think, some of it you can get. That's why I think of the greats that I've seen play, especially in basketball. I think of 3 people that had that. And I think it was him, I think it was Kobe, and I think it was Larry Bird. I think those are the ones that would rip your heart out if you had a chance. And I think they would, elbow their mother in the mouth to make a layup. I just think that you're born that way. It's win at all costs. And you just figure out a way to get your way. And that's why I think right now that if Michael Jordan was walking down the street and you said, "Hey, I'll have a competition with you right now on who can fly a kite the highest," he's in, and I would be too. But I mean, I'm on a very minuscule level, but I mean, a challenge is a challenge.
It's interesting you say that because I thought the same thing. And you could take it to gambling, and I could take it even when I competed in high school. I was never the best at anything I ever did. I didn't have the most athletic talent, but I had a drive just to I wanted to rip your heart out, but I didn't have any talent to want to do that. But when I was out there doing whatever I was doing, it was balls to the wall. I mean, it didn't matter. I'd run through you. I remember boxing out Mark Howard and him throwing me to the side, like literally grabbing my body and throwing me against the wall. And next time down, I didn't give a shit. I'd box him out again. And I agree with Mace. I just think you're born with that. I mean, you guys all see your own children. Like, I see my daughter has that. Luke could give two shits. He doesn't care. He loves being with his buddies. Competing to him is like, I win, I lose, I win, I win, I lose, I lose. And when you come from that perspective, like, I can't get that through my head. Like, I don't understand that. Like, if Mason and I were to play a Madden football game, like, we would talk shit the whole time to each other, and I would be pissed if he would beat me. Like,
I would.
Pissed. No, you suck. But I would be pissed. Like, I mean, like,
ticked.
Yeah. Sorry, ticked. Ticked.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to say ticked?
Yeah.
Because this is a podcast
and stuff.
Sorry, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that. I apologize, Derek. Make sure you edit that when you put it on.
Yeah.
But Keith, can't you see? I mean, I think it's easy to see some of the great players, and not all great players have it. I mean, like, I don't think LeBron has that. He's one of the greatest of all time. I don't think he has that.
He talks like he has it.
Yeah, but I don't think because here's my thing. Michael Jordan didn't like Clyde Drexler during that time. He might like him now. He didn't like B.J. Armstrong.
Right.
He wasn't hugging, and spending the off seasons with those guys when he didn't, have an opportunity to. But, the one thing that I will say, you look at Brady, I think he's got that. I think when you look at other sports, there are players that have that mentality, and it works for them.
I think
one last thing, Keith, that I want to say about him, Michael Jordan, there's no question, and he would fight anybody in the NBA, and I don't think that wasn't a joke. I think that's part of it. I mean, I think he would absolutely say, "Hey, Charles Oakley, here we go," and I think he thinks he's going to win every time because it's a challenge.
I think the thing that's interesting with him is that it's that drive plus great ability.
Yeah.
Like, you can have that drive, but if you're like Dan saying, and you're, 5'9" and weighing $120, it's only so far it's going to take you. But when you're a gifted athlete like that, it's pretty incredible to think of somebody having that much drive. But the thing I've always thought this, I've never compared Jordan and LeBron because of that. Like, I think Kobe, I agree with you. Kobe, Larry Bird, they have that attitude. To me, LeBron was always Magic Johnson. Like, he was always way more Magic-like, even in personality, than he ever was Jordan. Because, like, to me, Magic he was a competitor, don't get me wrong, but nowhere near that level. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that kind of just brings it to that episode 7 and 8 that we kind of watched last night. Go ahead. Anybody want to start and go ahead and share?
Can I add a little bit to that?
Yeah, go ahead, man.
I'm gonna add a fourth name to that. I know Mason hates him, but Isaiah Thomas was like that. I mean, I think in order to be where he was, he had that huge chip on his shoulder where he didn't care.
I can't disagree. I can't disagree. No, I mean, I can't disagree with that. He was competitor, and for his size, for him to do the things he did, it's pretty incredible when you think about. I mean, he wasn't the biggest guy in the world, but he was a jerk. The
Oh,
difference,
my
though, the difference though was I wonder how much of a jerk he was to his teammates.
I think you're talking about two different things. That competitiveness, I don't know. You know, in being a jerk and being a competitor, I think are two different things. Because I'm about to offend two of you, but Christian Laettner is the biggest jerk out there. But I don't think that makes him an ultra competitor. I think he was just a jerk, and I put Isaiah in that category. They're both good.
Here's what I'll say to you. I would say you can take all those championships and all those guys, and you take all those interviews that you've seen over these past 7 or 8 episodes. Has any of those guys said, I like Michael Jordan? Have you heard that line come out of their mouth?
No.
So we all know that one of the greatest things you ever get when you play a game, winning. I totally get that. But you would say, man, it was being with those guys in that locker room. Like, I loved being around those guys.
Yep.
That's the thing you miss. When you get old and fat like us, you're like, man, I miss being in the locker room with my fellas. I don't hear a lot of that when you hear those guys talk about Jordan. I hear a lot of, well, he pushed us. He did this. He did that. His competitiveness is unbelievable. That's where I think I start to lean toward okay, it accomplished the goal. I'm not denying that. I just wonder if there was some jerk there along with accomplishing the goal. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Which is, that's a great segue into 7 and 8, obviously, because Mace, you are one of the biggest Jordan fans I've ever met, but I love the dude. Like, I grew up. Michael Jordan and Michael Jackson, if it weren't for those two, I wouldn't be here today. But I will tell you this. I did not have a clue how much of a jerk he was, especially to his teammates. And I see it now. It makes sense that he was pushing them like that. But for him, something that was it's been cool for me to see has been the unedited version of that they have on ESPN, because you hear the behind the scenes smack talk and you knew that stuff goes on, but you never heard it because we're in a censored world where we had squeaky clean, be like Mike all the time. You know what I mean? And I guess I didn't know how much of a jerk he was. Even with the whole Steve Kerr part, I loved how Kerr punched him back. That took some guts right there, but it just showed that he was able to pull that out of people,
Yeah, the only reason why I knew a lot of that stuff, I did read that Sam Smith book when it came out, and I think I still have it. So there were lots of stories, especially the Will produced stuff, and those are things that I remember. Any of that stuff that came out back then, it was surprising back then because you never heard that stuff.
Yeah.
That's all you knew is he was going to be in Sports Illustrated every single week. And there's going to be, articles in USA Today. But when that book came out, it kind of shed a whole new light on what was happening in those practices.
Danny, you got anything?
Well, yeah, I did. It's interesting you say that because I thought about, if he played in the last 10 years, would he be different well, here's what I'm saying, in the Twitter world, where everybody gets their feelings hurt, where you have, a million people that's as soon as they see something, they have to tweet it. I thought the same thing when Pippen decided not to play, just sat out.
Yeah.
He just sat out. And I thought, dude, he would have been
he'd been crucified
mauled on Twitter. Right? I mean,
Yep.
We're just people, and they took care of that internally. And I thought to myself, dude, that's a dude that made a mistake. I would have been ticked as his teammate, but he came in and he apologized, and he's allowed to make a mistake and say, listen, I'm sorry. I thought I should have had the last shot, so on and so forth. But to me, that was what was going through my head during 7 and 8 is how different 25 years in just life, not necessarily sports, but just life has changed, how we take a perception of things,
I will tell you, I remember talking about the whole Scottie Pippen thing I remember that, but I didn't realize exactly how that happened either. You know, that was really interesting to me that he was just like, no. And then I love, like you said, Danny, I love the results of it. I love hearing how Bill Cartwright came in.
Oh
It
my
was-
gosh, that was
Was in
great.
tears. You know what I mean? Like, I love that. One thing that was like really interesting, I don't know if you guys caught it, but Pippen, they asked him now, you know, and he said,
He said, yeah.
I regret
I had
it.
the moment over again.
I regret it, but I would do it again. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, huh?
I agree.
I wish they would have elaborated on that, like because of the results that you ended up getting, Scotty, or because you really don't feel bad for it. You know what I mean? There was never like a follow up to that.
Well, that contradicts itself.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
That was one of the things I wrote down as well. I didn't quite understand that statement. I don't know if that was one of those things like he truly does regret it, but still has to kind of like man up and say, well, I still think I made the right decision, though.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure about that comment either.
I took that comment as I regret maybe what I did to my team, but it still felt disrespectful because I'm Scottie Pippen and that was Tony Kukoc. And if anybody should have taken that shot, it should have been me, not that dude. I mean, that's what I took it as. But I mean, again, I'm just looking into it. But you're right. I thought that was puzzling myself when he said it, and I was just like, wow, this dude's still feeling that.
You know what I wrote down about that? I just wonder if Tony Kukoc misses that shot, if that whole thing doesn't blow up.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right.
In the locker room,
There's a whole different ending.
Yeah.
Whole different ending to that story.
Yeah.
All right. Who? Anybody got anything else?
I thought it was interesting. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, D.
Go ahead, man.
I love the side stories. Like, you know, the year after Jordan retires, you know, they had three guys make the All-Star team. You know what I mean? And you know, they go. I mean, shoot, they're a game away from going back to the conference finals. And again, it came back again at the end when Rodman ended up joining the team again. And I thought back in '96, first off, they don't go 72-10 without Rodman, you know, and does Rodman, do they win the title minus Rodman? You know what I mean?
Yeah. He was big. I mean, in as much as people want to clown him and he seemed like a clown, when you really sat back and you watched him play, you were like, that dude was pretty awesome at what he did because he just had focus on, here's what I'm going to focus on. Here's what I'm going to do. And he did it the best that I've ever seen anybody do. Just, I mean, like, hey, I'm going to get a rebound. I'm going to get 20 rebounds. He would go do it.
But he changed the way to rebound. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't the box out, you know,
No.
body up. He would find ways to finagle a rebound that I have never seen before, you know, and that was something that I remember. You know, Ben Wallace was similar to that, but nothing even close. Yeah, I would agree with that.
You know,
Hey,
I've said for years.
can we talk baseball?
Yeah, hang on, because let me get back to this. Because I've
Gotcha.
said for years, those last three championships, you know, everyone wants to talk about Michael having Scotty. I said that those last 3 years that Rodman was more important than Pippen on those last three championship teams. And let me just say one thing about Pippen before we do anything else. I'm not a Pippen hater by any means, but I am so tired of hearing people say how great of a basketball player he was in that, you know, one of the three best players in the league. I mean, we're talking about a guy that averaged 16 points a game, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. I mean, that was his career average. So, you know, for people that they want to throw all this praise at Scottie Pippen and say he was a very talented player. Don't get me wrong, but that whole thing about him being 1A, I think is way, way overblown.
John Bozica.
There he is.
Hey guys, how we doing?
Good.
Good.
Celebrity in the house.
Hey John, we're finishing up our talk about the last dance.
D, go
Yeah.
on with the baseball one because I want to
Yeah.
hear what you got to say about that.
Okay, so you guys are more baseball than me, pro baseball. I had no clue that Tito Francona was his
That was
man.
I had that written down. That was awesome.
No clue. So it was awesome seeing Tito. And then I don't know who's the hitting coach.
I didn't write it down.
Anyway.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
You guys know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He was talking about how good Jordan was. Like, I guess I don't remember that either. Like, I all you heard about was
202.
striking out and this and that, but he made a good point in talking about how in that short amount of time thrown into it like that, how good he actually was and could have been.
Oh, he said if he would have gotten 1,500 bats, he'd have been in the majors.
Yeah.
I mean, and again,
31.
what's that?
At 31 years old, you know,
Right.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
not playing for 14 years. So
I mean, again, and people will disagree, whatever. Hardest thing to do in sports is hit a baseball. I mean, and that guy, like you said, hadn't played, what'd you say, Mason, 14 years?
yeah,
Is that what it said? I mean, in his first 13 games, he had a hit. First 13 how many major leaguers go their career without having a 6-game hitting streak is what I thought. You know what I mean? I mean, you go an entire week of getting a hit every time. That would be an amazing stat to look up.
it's crazy.
It is. It's crazy. It's unbelievable.
Hey, the Gary Payton stuff was fantastic last night. That
Oh
was
my
my
gosh.
favorite. You know,
That was hilarious.
other than Jordan getting emotional and things like that. The Gary Payton stuff last night was fantastic. To watch Jordan's reaction and him watching Gary Payton's interview, I thought was the price of admission last night. That was really good.
Yeah, because Gary Payton really believed everything he was saying.
Oh, no question. No question.
It's the glove.
And the other thing that I want to talk about before we get off here, the one thing I forgot was how good some of those teams were that Chicago beat. That Orlando team, that
Yeah.
team was loaded.
Yeah, they
The
were.
Charlotte
They
team later on was really good. The Pacers team,
Which team, Mace? Who'd you say after Jordan?
Orlando, and then Charlotte, and then Indiana. I mean, those were really, really good teams. And then, you start throwing in, that Seattle team was they
did. They had players.
Well, when you got Detlef Shrimp,
right.
Yeah, and Chris Mullen.
Yeah,
Chris Mullen was on that team.
Chris Mullen.
Well, it was funny you said because I wrote about the Charlotte team. Like Charlotte had a bunch of above-average players about a year or two after their prime on that team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just by looking, they had Vlade Divac, BJ. They had
I think Anthony Mason was over there by that
Anthony
point.
Mason was on that team.
Bobby Phil.
Yep, the Bobby Phils. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good stuff.
That Orlando team was legit. I mean,
they were.
That was a good team.
No doubt.
All right. I'm just sad that it's only
Stop
one
here,
more
and
week.
then we'll pick back up with Mr.
Okay.
Mosey here in a second.